Welcome to Canvas of the Heart, presented by Free Arts for Abused Children of Arizona. The mission of Free Arts is to transform children's trauma to resilience through the arts. This show is a collection of conversations that spotlight the ways Free Arts creates hope for children and teens who've experienced abuse, neglect, or homelessness. We hope you find this show to be informative, inspiring, and fun. Welcome to the podcast. I want to introduce Brittany and Tolga. They're both mentors at Free Arts joining us here today. How are you both doing?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here, Matt. Thanks for having us.
I'm thrilled to have you, and I'm really glad. I think we just have a special episode coming because there's no way we recruited the introverts, right? There's a high energy group here that's going to talk a little bit about their experience in mentoring at Free Arts. So let's just start, Brittany, with you first.
Okay.
Tell us about your background, where you're from.
Okay.
What should we just know about you that kind of led up to you discovering Free Arts?
Okay, great question, Matt. So I'm originally from Texas. I've been in Arizona for a little over 3 years now. I got my bachelor's degree back in Texas, and when I moved to Arizona about 3 years ago, I found Arizona being very kind to me and opening a lot of doors. I quickly got certified as a creative journal expressive arts instructor, which is a method that completely changed my life, and we use a lot of the non-dominant hand with the arts. So creative journal expressive arts is something I got certified in 2022. Then recently, earlier this year, I got certified as a soul collage facilitator. And in October, I got certified as an adverse childhood experiences trainer. So all three of these coalesce really well with mind, body, soul connection, and really just healing through the arts. I'm really passionate about it. So I started looking up ways that I could get involved now that I had felt capable enough to go out and help others with the tools that I had learned. And I stumbled upon Free Arts after doing some research, and I came to check it out before I decided I was going to volunteer.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was like, let me see what this place is all about.
Yeah.
And I walked in here, and the front desk, Millie, she was so sweet, and she gave me a little tour. I went back into the art room, and I was sold. I was like, this is where I want to be. This is an awesome place. So I went back home, and I signed up for training, and I've been here probably a year now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us just a bit more about the trainings you had in arts. So they sound like they are really open to a whole person experience that might not be, it might be new information to some of the audience. So what were some of the components of that training?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Matt, because this work is very involved with, again, the non-dominant hand, and the name is Creative Journal Expressive Arts Method that was crafted by Dr. Lucia Capacchione. And Dr. Lucia really starts to integrate all these different types of art methods like dance, clay, journaling, collage, with the non-dominant hand, in that you will have conversation with some of your artwork and ask for it to speak to you and really what these images want to share. So you're having a dialogue between your work and your art to really understand what is the message here, right? What is my art trying to tell me? And this is a really expressive process that really there are no mistakes in art is a big component of Lucia's work. And so when I came to Free Arts, it was the exact same message where there are no mistakes in art. And that is so freeing as a person when you're in your head a lot of the time, right? And they're telling you there's no wrong way you can do this. So it does sound like a lot that I just mentioned, a lot of different types of art methods with the non-dominant hand, but there's no wrong way that you can do art. So really, this certification opened up so much of what was going on inside my body and gave me a lot of information into how to get better in alignment with who I really wanted to be. Sure. And so there was a lot of introspection, and it's a really interesting, art is an interesting way to learn more about yourself.
Yeah, it's the unique combo we have here, right?
Yeah,
Art
exactly.
plus mentors equals resilience.
Right.
With the non-dominant hand approach, my speculation is that's probably to provoke some feelings of imperfection or like work with what you have that you're not used to working with, and that might become something meaningful to you. Am I on the right path?
You know what? You're actually on a really interesting path there, Matt. The point of connecting with your non-dominant hand is getting into a new space in your brain that you normally don't tap into. So Lucia even kind of called it like your subconscious mind. And so you're connecting with your creative self. Sometimes even like your inner child is something that's really prominent in this program where we reparent ourselves and we connect with our inner child, and we're able to understand more about that relationship with that inner kid inside of us that really never goes away, no matter how old you are.
Yeah, and I imagine that there might be a level, and I've been in activities before where, like, as an introduction, people have you, like, write your name in the opposite hand just to get a feeling for, like, how awkward was that? And then also, you know, some people have very nice penmanship. I've don't have that luxury myself, so when they surprise themselves with this uglier version of their name, they're thrown back to like fourth grade where they're like tongue out trying to draw the letter E.
Exactly.
So there could be a playful side of it too, right?
Totally.
That makes sense. But yes, that's awesome. It sounds like a perfect recipe to pique your interest into free arts.
Yeah.
I can see how that led you here. Toga, tell us about you.
I write all my notes with my non-dominant hand.
You came prepared.
I love that.
You got.
Just so you know. So
That's what that is.
I wrote, yes.
Do you have all the other answers already too?
I do.
Okay.
I got everything here.
You came prepared.
I did because I didn't want to stray away.
Yeah.
What a wonderful background, though. My background is very different. So I do not have an arts background. I was born in Istanbul, in Turkey. I'm an army brat, so I traveled quite a bit every 2 to 3 months. Military families would probably understand that more better, and always being me. Meeting new people, new cultures, always adapting to new cultures, and it taught me a lot, more than it took away. And I finished college there as a veterinarian doctor, so it's completely different. And traveled a little bit to Africa, and then came to U.S. and decided to immigrate to United States for opportunities. And later on, I followed my dream of photography and general visual arts. And I opened my own small studio and just grew up from there. And the way I met free arts was through a bumper sticker.
Okay.
One of
I
my
can guess
clients,
what it says, but go ahead.
Yeah. It said free arts. Yeah. And I saw free and arts. I was like, okay, those two are my favorite two words, I think. So I asked them what it is, and they're like, yeah, they just come in and just help the kids and do arts and stuff. I'm like, wonderful. I'm a small business, so the cliche for me has always been, I have to give back to my community. I work with a couple of different, also volunteer my services with Heal DMD, Starry Foundation, Crisales. I work with Village of the Valley, mostly children and women oriented. And I said, yeah, free art sounds like something just I can do, even with my non-dominant hand. Because art doesn't have any, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to put yourself out there. And I started working with free arts. I went to the orientation, and I met a couple of wonderful people who welcomed me and then gave me direction. And I wanted to do this on a permanent level. So I volunteered my time with weekly mentorships, which started with that cliche of like, oh, I'm a small local business, I should give back to my community. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot how much joy I get from volunteering. I used to volunteer in Istanbul. I was the youth spokesperson for AIDS Eradication Center, which is a little bit tricky at a conservative country, Islamic country. It was a little bit tricky to go around with I'll draw the picture to you, with a construction helmet, protecting yourself.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit tricky, right? And putting yourself on TV and everything. And I thought to myself, you know what? I love this. I love this. I get more out of it in a very selfish way. I get so much more back from volunteering than I give. And I've also noticed that it's over time with free arts especially, it doesn't just affect me, but it affects my daughter as well, who's 16 now. And I get a very good feedback from friends and family that are very inspired, very appreciative. I'm like, I didn't think much of it. It's just something I did. But how it affected my surroundings, how proud it made my daughter. It just touched me in a different way. And I started to appreciate that as well for myself. And then, Free Arts was like, this guy doesn't know any arts of sorts or anything. But you know what? He can talk, so here I am.
Here you are.
I don't know about that. I know that you're always excited to share about free arts, and your passion comes through really clearly. But I could feel the value of art and that experience that comes from both of you. Because that combination exists for us, we're about that artistic expression, the involvement in art and relationship. I'm wondering, for both of you, what mentoring has looked like. You just told us, Tolga, that you've done the weekly mentor program. What does mentoring really look like for you? How often and what kind of things do you do with participants?
We're there to mentor them. For sure, but I don't know who's mentoring who. I have noticed that we do this 1 hour a week. It's 1 hour a week. That's all it is. And I've realized how much the kids appreciate that hour. They wait for it. They ask for it. They are ready for it. By the time I'm there, they're waiting. They're like, let's do this. They're sitting there and they're helping, cleaning or distributing the papers and everything what we need to do. They're like, what are we doing today? They're welcoming you at the doors. And you know what? I was thinking about this the other day, and I remember my literature teacher who encouraged us to speak in public. I was in junior high. I remember my music teacher. I looked up to these days when we had the music class. I looked up to the day we would do some drawings. I was hoping they would give me some homework, maybe.
Yeah, this is the day you didn't want to be sick.
And I remember. I forgot, but I remember how much of a love I had. How much of an enthusiasm it brought to my life when I was a kid, and that I remember today how excited I was, and the kids did remind me this. I usually work with 6 to 12-year-olds at the moment, and they remind me of my very deep passions. Yes. It did have a huge effect on me for that reason.
Excellent. Yeah, it comes through really clearly. Brittany, for you, what does mentoring look like?
Matt, mentoring has been an interesting journey this last year because I've learned that there's a lot of different ways that mentoring can look like. So sometimes mentoring can be very active and engaging and very needy of your time and your attention, and the kids do need more of you that day. There are other days and other groups and times where really all a kid needs is for somebody to hold space for them, whether words are being exchanged or not, and they can just feel like, I can breathe, right? I can be here for an hour. I can be here for a day and just feel safe. And there are no expectations of me, and I have choices, right? And I'm able to decide what I want. And sometimes that looks like not speaking or sharing anything at all, but just being in a space together where someone feels like that's enough. So mentoring can look really different at a lot of different times. And I've been involved in a lot of the different types of ways you can mentor here. So I similarly did the weekly mentor program. I recently did a professional artist series. I've also done just the free arts days. I did the theater camp and the MAC camp. So I've tried to do a lot of different types of volunteering to see what it really is to be a mentor and what the different ages need from you. And that's going to look different all the time. Right. So really just showing up as a safe, supportive person is what mentoring has really instilled in me. I thought it would be like showing up and needing to be this person for these kids that, hey, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be a mentor to these children. Yes, and you can do that sometimes without even having to say anything. So mentoring has really evolved for me in realizing that it can look so different and just showing up in the way that the kids need you to that day.
Mm-hmm. I think in your own way, something I'm picking up that's really clear is that you're able to be yourself, and that has a huge value to the environment that you're in. And I think that's a helpful thing. Some people, maybe those listening, who are on the verge of getting more involved, feel like, what do I have to offer? What do I have to share? And from you, Brittany, it's really clear. You're saying you're enough. Your presence in the moment is enough. Right. And it doesn't have to be philosophical and wise, and you don't have to be a PhD in like trauma recovery. No. You just have to be present, and you have to be ready to do what's needed in that moment, which often is sitting with or close, right? In a way, somebody is in a way taking a minute for themselves, but they're doing that in a space with others, and that has a different quality of it, right? Some people notice this often when they're studying, and they hate studying on their own, but they go to the library and see other people doing that. And suddenly they're in the zone, right?
It works.
There's a feeling of like we're in the same groove together. Yeah, so that really makes sense. You touched on it, Brittany, and I like both of your thoughts about training. So as you got on board recently, Free Arts is very intentional in how we recruit and train volunteers because we have a very vulnerable audience that needs some of the insights you're sharing here, many of which people bring in of their own. They know like this is what's needed in the moment. And there's often like an instinctual, intuitive sense of like sitting with, but other people need the advice. Yeah. So tell us about the training experience. Tell us first, like what was that like for you? What did you take away from it? And I'd like to hear your thoughts after that, Brittany.
Well, I start with the orientation, and I didn't know what to expect. It was a wonderful experience for me, and I have first of all I figured I've seen way more than I knew. I noticed that I'm really privileged. My child is very privileged. She wakes up and she has breakfast. She has a backpack. She has nice shoes, clean shoes. And she's not afraid to get up or wake me up. She's not worried she's going to have lunch or not. She has them all, and I think I haven't thought about this for a while. How much these kids need. My daughter has me in her life, who shows up, and. That is a privilege. I didn't notice that. I thought that was that's something I would do. But then I noticed that, no, this is a privilege. This is this makes a difference, a huge difference. Showing up, like you said, Brittany, is, I think, the most important thing. And because the kids are resilient, and you can build more on it with art and mentoring, but that mentor needs to be present. During the orientation, I've learned all these. And then I jumped into this, my first the weekly mentorship, and I don't have as much of arts background for that. I've learned it in safaris, working with like famous photographers or videographers. I took class from them, but I didn't sit down with kids and intentionally learn about arts necessarily. And over the years, I've learned from my clients how much they appreciate those. But I've also learned that there is no ending to learning. So the orientation was a great start. It was a nice slap on the face. Hey, dude, wake up. You know, you got to show up. Kids need you. And then I noticed that I need them too.
Yeah.
I need that fulfilling duty in my life, which helped me grow, like I was saying, for myself and for my family. And now I'm realizing I need to learn more. I need to understand more. I need to, prepare more for those classes. It has given me more and more drive to move forward. And I'm very happy. I've met some of the most wonderful volunteers here who are also willing to share and learn. And I can't wait to learn more about your experiences and just bring it to the transitional home I'm working at. I would love to do that. But another thing I've learned also is people want to help. They want to help if they are somewhat asked or inspired. In my occasion, I did a commercial shoot for the Comfy brand, and then we had like 100-something products. These are like blankets you can wear. I don't mean to be, but I went to them. I said, hey, you want me to ship them back? There's boxes of these ones, or maybe I can, donate
Give them to some
these
people that
ones
could
who
use
might
them.
need just before winter. They're like, we love that idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then while I'm talking to this company, my client hears and he's like, I want to help with that. I said, yeah, do you have like a truck or SUV? We'll need some boxes. So, yeah, okay, we have a lot of boxes. Let me call a couple more clients. And it just kind of grew, and everybody's like, how can we help? What can we do? And people are looking for it. They want to help. People are nice. There's a lot of nice people. And I've learned that I can not just, being present is one, learning what we can do, intentional arts, and developing on it and growing and seeing what works best is another step. But also just kind of, hey, can you help me this week? I would love to see your, look at art in my class. If you could help us 1 week, why not? It's incredible. It's incredible. It's very exciting. And I can't wait to see what I'm going to learn next. I am filled with like, oh my God, this feeling of like, what's going to surprise me next? What's going to open up new doors? What am I going to learn about myself or my daughter or my kids, right? My kids being my kids that I work with. And I would like to call myself a mentor to them, and I think they're also a mentor to me. I've learned so much. Like I never felt comfortable around teenagers necessarily. It's just me. I've always been like a kid.
It's not uncommon for that feeling.
Well, I've always felt like, I go with mentor with people like amazing people like Brittany, right? They know what they're doing. I'm the comic relief. Okay, kids love it. But then I just can't wait the next step. I've learned that teens actually like me. They're fine with me. They're high-fiving with me, which I learned once I did some services at the Scottsdale Arts Center.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, these teens are so nice. I'm like, what is happening here? It's nonstop learning.
That's also part of your learning is, how these teenagers are showing up, right? So as much as I said, it's pretty common for people to feel that way about teenagers. I've never had that feeling, and I enjoy teenagers, like middle school, all the things that intimidate people. I'll take it. Like I love the energy, right? And people can grow into it. So I think what you're sharing here is that like, give this a shot. You'll see that you might learn. And something you said a couple times, I just want to highlight it because I think it's 100% true. You're saying there's something about this that you get out of it. And there's an old saying in mentoring, and they mean this in the one-to-one match world, that mentoring changes two lives. And so there is this
this companion. We don't do this work because we're hoping to change ourselves and let the children be an audience, but we're not unaffected by it. And so we can grow, like you're talking about, in our capacity to understand their situation. I heard you say a couple things that were really powerful, right? You mentioned learning more than once, but your ongoing sense of learning about this is motivating to you. It started with that real sobering realization about the privilege your family has. And that's not something we're putting out there to say you should feel bad for it. We're saying this should be taken for granted that a child could have what they need, have an accessible parent, live in a comfortable space with their basic human resources. And so when you encounter the fact that in, the relative wealth of our environment, that's not really true for a lot of children that we can see, right? They're in our communities, in our neighborhoods. I think that is a normal response to just really be affected in that in a strong way. And so I think that's really awesome. Brittany, how about you?
The training.
Yeah. We're going to training and its impact on you.
The training was so much more than I was expecting. So I knew that there was multiple hours involved in this training, but I was very excited about what they could possibly talk about in 8 hours to get us ready to be volunteer mentors. And surprisingly, I came in and it felt like 4 or 5 hours, the main focus was on safety and feeling safe in this environment and understanding that without safety, it's kind of hard to get to the next step, right? So for a long time, we really just made sure everybody here feels safe and what does safety mean and how that looks like for different people. After a long time spent on safety, I remember having like Chipotle or something, and I was like, heck yeah, this is worth it already.
The combo's paying off.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yes, love, check. And
that is an ad, by the way, if Chipotle is listening. You can sponsor us anytime.
Chipotle's my life.
You just have to
I know that meme.
So it was... Then after lunch, there was still a lot of information on just understanding how showing up as just literally like yourself was going to be enough for these kids, these teens, and that they weren't needing a whole lot from us other than our presence, right? And our support in whatever way that looked like. So the training for me was so eye-opening, and I found myself relating to a lot of the scenarios that they were sharing, right? About an activated kid waking up in the morning, going to school, feeling overwhelmed, and how that precipitates over time, right? And just these stories about these kids and realizing I'm not that kid anymore. And now I'm able to help the kids that do feel like that, right? And be that supportive adult for them. And so the training opened up a lot for me in that I even went and got certified as an ACEs trainer.
You went deeper for sure.
Yeah, I went and did the training, and I got trained in what we were trained on because I felt so passionate about the material, what they taught us, and I was just like, I need to know more. And so I just went and got trained myself. And so the training was really impactful. Yeah. And I think you mentioned mentoring is helping two people or improving the lives of two people.
Changes two lives.
Right. And then even with that, I would say there's a ripple with those lives, right? Those two lives, it ripples further with your family, with your friends, with your community. And so that two people effect, I feel like it's so much larger than that. And it just starts to grow through these programs and through mentorship and through support where kids can learn, hey, there is someone that wants to show up for me, and they see me and they validate me, and that's enough. So the training is so very insightful and very also engaging. They found a way to make it fun for us. So I loved it, and I would do it all over again. I did do it all over again. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Good feedback. And for the audience listening, what's the ACEs certification? So ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. That's an overall study. You can Google that. We've talked about it on the podcast and other episodes. Locally in the Arizona area, the whole state, there is the ACEs Consortium. And they provide trainings like this available to the general public. So you don't necessarily have to go back and get a master's in counseling to understand this. This is very accessible for people in a lot of different walks of life. So thumbs up for attending that and sharing your insight. You know, in the programs and even on the podcast here today, it's really clear how important that is.
Every time you donate to Free Arts, something amazing happens. How? Let's paint a picture. Each penny we receive helps us deliver trauma-informed arts programs in a safe space where children can express themselves. We partner with more than 40 different child welfare agencies, a community that reaches over 17,000 children annually. So when you give, you help us turn trauma into resilience. Visit freeartsaz.org to donate and transform countless lives today.
The design of our training really is trying to balance a couple things, and it's hard to do. Believe me, we have to work hard to keep it shorter. So, which means we are consciously thinking about how to expand more learning opportunities because there's a maximum amount people can take in one day, even if it's amazing. Like there's just certain part of, we're full.
Right.
And then how can I take it part of this? So that's motivation for this podcast. People can come back for more resources at different times. The symposium, which this is our first plug, August 16th, 2025 in Scottsdale at the Sky Song Center. Come to Resilient Hearts Symposium. So that's our first plug. Those are all the learning opportunities that are part of this. And so we're trying to balance out understanding that safety. And that it's a beginning of what we hope to achieve with young people. And people who donate to us, people who fund us at a large level, institutions want to know about outcomes. And our outcomes all flow from a beginning of developing some interpersonal safety, both the physical environment and also are we going to engage in a way that is going to promote healthy acceptance and growth for those that we're serving. And then you're both talking on something that's really cool, which is the ripples. These are things theoretically I hope happen because even I think our training is at a level where even if something changed in your life and you couldn't go past the training, you couldn't get involved, you moved, whatever, it might happen, that if we've made you think about how you interface with the public in a different way, or your own children, there's a public health good that comes from knowing this information. Because all day, we're getting the snaps. All day long, we're encountering people who might have traumatic histories, and they're serving us in a variety of ways, or we're encountering them, and they may not be having the most, glorious moment. And it's our human nature to think that that's about me. And in some cases, knowing like there's something going on here with you. And I'm not necessarily here to counsel you about it. I could just recognize that it is occurring and be, somewhat soothing. And it could be like being nice to the cashier after the person in front of you's complained about, the quality of the socks they just bought and how disappointed they are in the brand.
So true.
And you're just like, how's your day going? Giving them the look of like,
I see you,
we're all going to get through the sock episode, that is real, by the way. That's not a made-up scenario.
That was too specific.
Yeah. I do sometimes think like, is there a camera on my shoulder that I have to watch the crazy show up? And it's just the moment where people are at the end of their coping ability.
Yeah.
And so I think there is a value to seeing how that ripple carries out in your lives because these are not things that only work, right, for just the audience. I say this, the staff's tired of hearing it, but like the pyramid or outcomes is for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Like, where are you at in it? What do you need to build that self-efficacy?
Right.
You would do this important thing, but it's too hard. Sounds like we need to do it.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how. We'll set up the safety net. We'll be here to catch you, but it's time to do it. Toga, it looks like you want to add.
I think it's a good thing to step back and look at your life and think, okay, after I do, like, what do I do in life that afterwards I drive nicer? Or I'm nicer to people. I figured that, after my mentoring sessions, with kids and driving home, I am such a nice driver. I am a good driver. I'm very courteous and I'm very thoughtful. I'm better at home. There is just an instant effect that, at the time I don't realize I'm just smiling. I'm just happy because I received a card or they made a bracelet for me or so, because they,
it's those things.
And you're like, oh my God, yeah. And how many things do I have like this? I mean, I love what I do. So that's an amazing, on my end, privilege. I have a very fun work environment. This is something else. This recognition is about, because that 6-year-old is gonna tell you as it is.
Yeah.
And if they
keep it real without knowing what that even means.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And incredible feedback from them when you receive a bracelet.
Yeah, it's good to hear that your sense after the mentoring episode is that you do feel more calm and that you are able to engage. And even you said you drive nicer. So I don't know who's listening. If you have some input on the traffic situation in Phoenix, perhaps the solution is mentoring at Free Arts. And maybe, I have to go home. Our building's on 3rd Street, Camelback, which means that I have to go west to go home, and I go by 7th Street, Camelback pretty much every day, and that means something new is happening every day, and it's just a huge intersection of it's the combination of impatience and time is ticking away. It's not a good recipe, but like knowing that there's a bit more of you that is expansive, that can allow things to just be as they are. That's I think an important ingredient to moving forward. So we have a couple questions here to kind of close this up. I'm wondering if there might be a moment so far that kind of signifies to you the ultimate meaning of what it means to be at Free Arts. Maybe it's a story, maybe it's something that matters to you, maybe it's something you heard or a phrase. How would you sum up what Free Arts means for you?
Brittany, take it away.
Oh my gosh.
They're all like, I need a second. we need the Jeopardy theme music. It is a big one.
That is huge. I'm going back to the thing that's coming to my head is a huge time that was, my energy was given at the theater camp, right?
Yep.
And so theater camp was 2 weeks. I wasn't able to do the full 2 weeks, but I did as much as I could of the 2 weeks. And from the first day to the last day, the changes, the improvements, now we're not talking like, oh, this is a new child, or this is a new teen, right? No, there's small improvements that were really meaningful, where there was acknowledgement in the mornings. They were excited to show up that second week. They were looking forward to getting up on stage when initially it was like, what are we doing? We're going to have this final performance at the end of these two. How, right? And the faces and the energy and the moods and the attitude early on, from that moment to as the days went by and the hours went by, you could tell the kids started to more like soften up and feel that connection from those mentors and those volunteers. And they started to just enjoy themselves more in the moments where they were able to have fun in like some games that were just random and that Marlon would lead for us. And you could see the kids eventually kind of slowly letting their guards down and feeling like, hey, I want to share a little bit more about my story. And their stories, their poetry, everything that they shared was so impactful in those 2 weeks. And at the end, they were terrified, but at the Herberger, they had their final performance, and the whole Herberger was filled with people showing up for these teens to put on an impromptu show that they had come up with after 2 weeks of just showing up and trusting the process, trusting the mentors, trusting the volunteers, and slowly letting their guards down to where those kids initially who really didn't want to show up were on stage at the end of the 2 weeks. And I could see how proud they felt of themselves at the end of all of this. I got emotional seeing all their progress and how proud they felt being up on stage, even overcoming huge fears that, adults like us are afraid to do. And these teens showed up and they crushed it, and they were themselves, and they were vulnerable, and they were brave, and they just completely have a place in my heart where I just felt like I want to keep doing this. I see the progress. I see the change. I see the kids feeling seen, and that matters. And I'm going to keep showing up. And so for me, volunteering has kind of even like started to heal my own inner child, right? Through being with these teens and children and providing this space for them, I just find myself healing, and selfishly as well, feeling fulfilled, right? And feeling like, yes, I'm the one giving my time and my energy, but I leave here feeling so much better. And sometimes those mentoring sessions are a little bit tough, but at the end of the day, they're so fulfilling, and I see the change in the kids and in just that adult that shows up, and that it makes a difference. So really, Free Arts, what they've implemented in me, I don't know if it's the word implemented, but really ingrained, is that there are no mistakes in what we're doing, and there's no mistakes in art. And so that phrasing just keeps me coming back and knowing, hey, there's no wrong way to do this. Just show up, be yourself, be supportive, and that's what the kids need. So Free Arts has been amazing to me, and I feel so safe and supported every time I come here. So selfishly, I keep coming back too. I get a lot out of it.
Well, we're happy to have you, but what a powerful testimony to what theater camp is about.
Yeah.
And I think what's powerful from what you're sharing is even what we might call improvement or change, it's really just eliciting from this young person traits that are already there.
Correct.
It's already there, and they've just had the right environment to give that another chance, despite what they've been through, to come into touch with this part of them that's hard to access because they need to watch their safety. They've been through difficult things.
Yes.
So I think that's really clear, and it comes through. How about you, Toga?
Matt, I really love these questions. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you that. Because I don't think I had this kind of conversation or these questions answered with another volunteer. I've been here for a year, but I just go to my weekly things. I come here for art supplies that you guys provide for the kids. And it's so amazing to me that Brittany, and she has a very different background than I do, right? I'm older, and I have a whole different background from across the pond, a whole very different educations, very probably family structures. And here we are both using some of these very important words like showing up, adults showing up. And the kids, they're not just going to give it. They want that consistency. And that consistency, like you said, the walls are coming down, they become more themselves, right? And you see that joy and passion grow in them. That's the most amazing thing. That the littlest thing you can do, in my case, 1 hour a week. I know people go to gym 1 hour a day, right? I know people do a ton of different things. I mean, have you ever been to Starbucks? It's going to take you an hour to get a coffee sometimes. Or what is that one? The one with the window.
Dutch Bros?
Yeah, oh my God, that's 2 hours there. But something.
And a personal interview at the window, you know.
Yeah, yes.
That you may or may not be ready for.
No, I do not want to pay the person.
Yeah.
But it's incredible that what little is so amplified back to us from someone so little, and how much we get back. It's not a lot of time. I feel like I should do more, but that's what it takes to make a difference from 5 to 20 different kids' lives. We get all the tools. We get all the training. We even get shirts.
Yeah,
I love
we
my
do.
shirts, by the way. And it's quite amazing that we both see these very important points of how we impact them and how it comes back to us. Same thing with public speaking. I've noticed we did some puppet shows. Like they make the puppets, and we did a makeshift castle, and they put it. incredible. We had people just kind of, kids, just, I don't know. I said, one kid, hey, would you like to introduce everyone? Whoever is speaking, she's just like, I don't know. And then she's like, she would not let the microphone go. She's like, I love this. This is good. It just kind of brought something that, I can maybe speak to public. I can say, okay. And she, did an amazing job in that instance. I was like, okay, so this is good. Like, I couldn't do any better. You're a great MC. You're doing this right. You're a great public speaker. And when we see these things just amplified back to us and how it impacts us, I guess what I'd like to say is, you can be an amazing background with arts and stuff like Brittany does, or not much like I do. Free Arts does provide all the tools. Very little time. You just show up. Showing up is always, it came up in this interview multiple times. I think if we could see more people just kind of get into that, understand how little it is, but how much you get back from this for themselves and for their friends and family. How inspirational it becomes. We should have training sessions here and volunteers lined up every single day. I feel like we do have the need. I feel like there is support. Free Arts sponsors, I'm going to assume. I mean, people who's trying to, come together to help. The response from myself, from my inner self, from my family, from friends, for the kids that we work with, we mentor with, is incredible. It doesn't take much, but the results are just mind-blowing. So I guess I will have to encourage everyone to just kind of maybe look at the website, I guess, right? To see if they can do something
Journey
like this.
starts there, yeah.
Perhaps learn more, and if they are professionals of this, and they're listening in, you said Michigan, right? Maybe
We're
just kind of see
hits
how
from the Bahamas, some from Europe. So we're hoping to inspire worldwide.
And I think the world can use more free arts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah. With that, I think we can really be united on that there's a space for this for everyone. And we have a target audience and population that we're serving. But this is getting in touch with the best parts of being human. And so on that note, Toga, Brittany, I can't think of better ambassadors for what it means to be a mentor here than the things you've shared today. And I'm so glad that you came in to share your perspectives. So this might be a challenge. I'm thinking about a word, maybe a short sentence. If you were to just sum up in one sentence, why should somebody volunteer at Free Arts? What would you say?
Art changes lives.
Toga.
Art changes lives. Absolutely. And art will change you.
Art changes lives. Art changes you. On that note, thanks for listening. This is Canvas of the Heart. If you're so motivated, go to freeartsaz.org to find out how to be a volunteer mentor, and you can be part of this great mission that's doing important work. Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks,
you. Matt.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Canvas of the Heart. We'd love to hear your questions and feedback by email at hello@freeartsaz.org. You can find more information about Free Arts by visiting our website at freeartsaz.org. We'd like to thank the many individual and corporate donors and the hundreds of volunteers that make Free Arts programs possible. Take care, and we will talk to you soon.